remember, I am a free man.
Nobody says I want to be a drug addict when I grow up. And certainly no one aspires that someday their addiction would find them destitute, helpless, or homeless, or worse yet, caught up in the revolving door of the county jail system or the prison industrial complex. I know that I never did. I was a student athlete growing up in Downey, California, with dreams of playing Dodger baseball. But as John Lennon once sang, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. In my life, my addiction took me to some very dark places for 28 years. Places that I honestly thought I would never make it out of, and places that I truly hope none of you will ever know. Like many addicts, I came from a place of poverty and domestic violence and a broken home. I took my first hit of weed at the age of 16. By 17, I had dropped out of high school and began to experiment with prescription drugs and hallucinogenics. And by 18, I was a full-blown cocaine addict on my way to Los Angeles County Jail for the first of what would be many times. I spent the next 28 years in and out of jail, in and out of prison, and I became addicted to methamphetamine and heroin as well. And by the age of 46, I had resigned myself to the fact that I would die behind prison walls or imprisoned within my addiction, without ever truly knowing what it had meant to be alive, to live, to experience life in all of its glory and its splendor and its majesty and its beauty and its sweet imperfections. I was going to die never having known any of those things. Now, I've just given you some of my experience and qualifications. I'd like to point out my references. And I'm not going to argue with the good doctor, am I? No. Nelson Mandela once said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. And that a nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but rather its lowest. And Dostoevsky said that the degree of civilization within a society can be seen by entering its prisons. I offer you my qualifications and my references. Los Angeles County Jail has the well-earned reputation of being one of the most violent and dangerous correctional facilities in the nation. It is a place where individuals, many of whose guilt or innocence has yet to be determined, are systematically degraded, dehumanized, and de-individuated, stripped of any dignity, pride, or self-esteem that they may have left. So prevalent have civil rights abuses been within the jail system that in 2014, 6 Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies were convicted of impeding an FBI investigation. Now, the investigation stems from a case in 2011 where an FBI informant, after they had been discovered by the jail system, was being hidden from FBI agents and the grand jury. That's the type of incarceration one can expect in LA County's jail system. And to put it simply, the way that we treat people in LA County Jail is both criminal and inhumane. Now, I wish I could tell you that my experiences with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation were those of correction and rehabilitation. But my experiences, like those of many, are that the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is a misnomer of epic proportions. The mission of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is to, 1, protect the public by safely and securely supervising its juvenile and adult populations. Fact, in 2011, the federal government deemed that the manner in which CDCR was supervising its adult population was both unconstitutional and deemed cruel and unusual. 2, to provide effective rehabilitation and treatment. Fact, in 1977, California abandoned the rehabilitative model of imprisonment. Fact, in 2016 and 17, with a $10.5 billion budget, if you wonder where your higher education dollars are going, pay attention. $10.5 billion budget, they are dedicating less than 3.5% to the types of rehabilitative programs that CDCR readily admits and evidence shows are good for communities and reducing criminal recidivism. When we talk about treatment, 70% of all prisoners have substance abuse issues. Yet out of 35 prisons, there are only 2 full-blown substance abuse programs to address those needs. Lastly, the third part of CDCR's mission is to integrate offenders successfully into the community. Fact, if you are not providing rehabilitation within the system, then the odds are already stacked against those being released into the community. Fact, prior to 1977, parole was essentially an early release program. If the parole board deemed you fit to re-enter society before the end of your sentence, you would be paroled and serve the remainder of your sentence under community supervision. In 1977, early release was eliminated. And in many states across this nation, they abandoned parole altogether. But California did the exact opposite. What California did is they began to now force every single released prisoner who had served their court-ordered sentence onto parole for an additional 1 to 3 years. And they have to serve under terms and conditions that ordinary citizens such as yourself don't have to abide by. And I'll give you some examples. Not maintaining employment could get you sent back to prison, but who wants to hire a parolee? Police contact, if you get pulled over and you don't get a ticket, you could still be sent back. Not maintaining a residence, well, if you can't maintain a job because you're a parolee, how can you maintain a residence? Violations like that send 50,000 to 70,000 parolees back to prison every single year without ever having been convicted of a single crime. If you wonder where our higher education dollars are going, that's where they're going. Parole, simply put, is just a mechanism to keep the prison industrial complex full of slave labor. 80% of the workforce in any given prison within this state is performed by inmates, by prisoners. They are forced to work for wages that range from 8 cents per hour to 56 cents per hour. And there's a strong prison and parole reform movement beginning in the nation right now. And as I speak, prisoners across this country are striking their jobs because they're tired of these conditions. But really gets to me is they are performing jobs in which they could become licensed or certified so that when they're released, they have something tangible to show an employer that they put the time in. They dedicated themselves to turning their lives around. But the state doesn't provide that. Why? Because the honest and simple answer is that the system is designed for us to fail, to keep it full. In 2009, I decided to turn my life around. And I entered Golden West College, and I actually applied to Golden West from the Orange County Jail. How cool is that? Right? Well, it's not as cool as when they actually answered me back. But I took that, and when I got to Golden West, I had a serious decision to make. Do I disclose my stigmatized and marginalized identity and risk what may happen, or do I share my story in the hopes that it helps someone? I chose to disclose. And what I discovered changed my life forever. People came out of the woodwork and just loved on me, and supported me, and encouraged me, and motivated me, and inspired me to action. And now, not only did I want to get an AA degree, but I wanted to serve. Because addiction is a selfish disease. And for 28 years, all I did was cost society and save society. Not save society, excuse me. Cost them and just be a negative member of that society. Today, I get to give back and I get to pay it forward. Because people like you believed that I could change. And 80% of people like me with my background who turn their lives around go into the type of fields that positively impact the lives of others. I graduated from Golden West College in 2013 as the college's outstanding student. And I went from the oceans of opportunity that Golden West provides, and I washed up on the shores of the beach, where my mom graduated before she passed away. And during my time at the beach, I continued to serve my campus and my community, and I've been recognized by my campus, by my city, and by the state since I've been here. Because the Repurposed Life gives back, pays it forward. Rehabilitation is cost effective, and I'll give you an example. Since I quit going to prison, I've saved the state $300,000 in rent money. But I have asked the state for a little bit of investment concerning my education, to the tune of about $50,000 in grant money. But for every dollar of that grant money, I have returned $6 back into the local economy. So not only am I saving money, I'm feeding the local economy. Rehabilitation is cost effective. When I was a child, I saw an episode of the Twilight Zone entitled Changing of the Guard, about an aging professor who was let go after 51 years of teaching. And he had gone home and began to thumb through old yearbooks and look at old students, and he began to question whether he had made any impact in his life. Something many of us educators might think occasionally here. And deciding that he had made no impact, he decided that he was going to go back to the school, and beneath the statue of Horace Mann, he was going to shoot himself. But then a phantom bell rings in the school, and he returns to his classroom where the ghosts of students past appear to tell him exactly how much of an impact he made in their lives. And he decided to live. Now, for those of us who teach, I hope we don't have to wait for the supernatural to appear to be recognized for what we do. But during my addiction, this quote by Horace Mann has always haunted me, because although I had resigned myself to the fact that I would die behind prison walls or imprisoned with my addiction, what haunted me was that I was going to die without ever having experienced some kind of victory for humanity. I want to make this clear right now. My story is the story of someone who has experienced white privilege. I will not disrespect my brothers and sisters of color by speaking on their behalf, but I can say that the things that I have witnessed cause me to really worry about our humanity and the degree of civilization for all of us. If our brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers are going to find new purpose in their addicted or incarcerated lives, we need to ensure that our state is using your tax dollars to do what they say they do, to rehabilitate. If they are going to have a chance, we need to throw the conventional wisdom out the door. And so tonight I want to challenge you to suspend your beliefs, if you have them, that once an addict, always an addict, or once a convict, always a convict, because I offer myself as Exhibit A, proof that that's a lie. Each of us has the ability to exercise our humanity. It doesn't cost us anything. And in the exercising of our humanity, we see each other the same. There are no color lines. There are no gender lines. There is no this, that, or the other. There is just us. And as much as I hate to admit it, it's one of the things that I enjoy from natural disasters or tragedies like Paris or San Bernardino or 9/11 or Katrina, because it is then we see people come out and exercise humanity to get us through these tragic times. And then it goes away. If we could tap into exercising our humanity on a daily level, and I know it can fit in all of your budgets, we can go the distance and make a difference in the lives of others. Lives that in turn change the lives of others, help strengthen families and communities. I truly believe with all my heart that we are blessed with each other. Why? It's simple, because we need each other. Thank you.